Hello class, my name is BYUI and this is a video of group 5. Today we are going to talk about control structures, especially about cursors and its characteristics. Well, a cursor is a temporary work area created in the system memory when a SQL statement is executed. And there are two types of cursors. Implicit cursors are automatically created and destroyed by the Oracle server whenever we execute an SQL statement inside a PL SQL block. The Oracle server by default opens, fetches, processes, and closes the implicit cursors automatically without the need of a programmer intervention, and that is why the implicit cursors are much faster compared to explicit cursors, thus resulting in a simple and elegant code. The implicit cursors are further drilled down into two types, based on the number of rows they process as shown next. Implicit cursors. Single row is a type of implicit cursor process. At most one row by select into clause with one or more columns, assigning them to individual static variables or to a collective record type variable. In multiple row implicit cursor, there is no restriction on the number of rows returned by the underlying SQL statements. Cursors for loop embedded with the query. A for loop is ideal for managing a table query or view because it's simple and it's easy to manage the many different parts. Since you generally don't know how many rows will be returned from your query, the for loop handles the opening and closing of the cursor, the fetching of the records, and the exiting of the loop. This example is only showing the part of a for loop, just to show you the difference between a static and dynamic cursor. A dynamic implicit cursor declares the local scope variable at the beginning, so the syntax in the where statement is slightly different than the static. Okay, the other type is explicit cursors. User-defined explicit cursors, which means the user has to create this for any statements which return more than one row of data. Unlike implicit cursors, the user has full control, and the steps for creating are declare, open, fetch, and close. In this case, an static explicit cursor is a SQL select statement that will not change its behavior. So, in this code example, the cursor is pointed at a virtual table, and the select statement is pulling out 3 columns. If the return happens to give you 10 rows, you would have a temporary table of that output. The for loop variant of a static cursor. A cursor for loop statement can support direct assignments from any type of variable by implementing a dynamic select statement. The for loop doesn't provide the ability to manage behaviors when it returns or fails to return rows. You need to return to the simple loop to manage those behaviors using an if statements and the not found and row count cursor attributes in a simple loop. Dynamic explicit cursors are very much like static explicit cursors. They use a SQL select statement and also rely on local variable scope access, as do implicit dynamic cursors. And finally, cursors support nested cursors, which are called subcursors. Thank you for watching this presentation. Goodbye.